What's up, YouTube? How's it going? You want to say hi?
Hi, YouTube. Hi. This is hi to YouTube.
Hi. So right now we have Jamie behind the camera. She's over there. McKenna Ramsey. That's Adina's daughter. One of the youngest daughters, and then you adopted two. So
yeah, actually, she's one of the oldest daughters.
Yeah.
She's not older than Taylor.
But she's one of the oldest
But
out of
yours,
5.
Though, but yours before adoption,
Okay.
right? Out of 5.
Well, yeah.
She's
Who's
number
5?
2.
I have 5 girls.
Taylor, Kenna, Alexis, Nay.
Oh yeah, Alexis.
I
But,
know.
Sky.
but what I'm saying, but your kids, you only have 2, and she's the youngest.
All of them are my kids.
Oh well, that's what I know that. You have Adina, Etiana, and the critic, Tyler Myers down there.
Guys?
Tyler, you must have a whole side to you that I don't know about.
Apparently, I don't know it myself.
Once you guys leave,
No,
he's like, hey,
he
man.
does
Jack.
He's
not.
like, hey man, you think you could
Yeah,
turn
he
it down?
does.
He's like, you think you could turn it down because this will look a lot. And when you said this, you actually should have said this. And I was like, okay.
Wow,
That's
never
kinda
seen
cool.
that side of you,
So
Tyler.
rude.
Simon Collins.
All right, guys. Episode 32.
3.
33 in his house.
33.
That's what you have written
frick.
down.
I opened 32. I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah, no 30s.
Where's 33 at? I didn't put it.
I mean, I'm looking at it.
Okay. Hang on. You have anything to say to that?
I don't think so.
I'm excited to be here tonight. I really enjoyed listening. I actually listened ahead and I had to go back so I could remember where I was at. Because I just kept listening.
Guys, if you were looking for YouTube last week, it didn't work because
That's right.
Tyler made an inappropriate joke that we could not air, and then he turned the phone off accidentally. So,
What? I forgot what he said.
Yep, remember?
I can't remember. I
She
remember,
just
I
said she
remember
can't
him saying
remember.
it and us laughing.
Yeah, it was a very
I'll tell you.
inappropriate
It
joke.
wasn't very inappropriate.
It was something that I probably wouldn't allow on the air.
Oh, what? Okay.
Whatever.
I need a microphone over here.
I said, are we straight?
That's right.
Meaning, are we good to go? And he said something very inappropriate. But anyways, all right, guys. We are gonna get started. And let me find it. Ready?
Yes.
We're
already-
laughing.
3. That stunk. 2. Hold on.
What is happening?
Yeah, y'all have to.
No, it got stuck in my. Okay,
So
3.
gross.
2. What's up, guys? It's Mario for the Made for More Consulting podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. We're glad that you're joining with us. Episode 33, week 2 of Atomic Habits. Section 2, we're going to be talking about making it obvious, talking about our habits. And so, before we kicked off, Adina, welcome back.
I'm glad to be here.
It's a pretty good book, right?
It is a really good book. I've really enjoyed it. I love how he is very detail oriented. I mean,
Yeah.
he explains everything
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, oh dang, dude,
Yeah.
I got it. But
Yeah.
but I like it.
It makes you think, and there's going to be some action steps. I don't think I put the action steps on the document, but we say it in the podcast. So, Etiana's here. Kenna Ramsey, which is Adina's second daughter, one of the oldest. The critic, Tyler Myers. And then my wife is behind the camera, chilling. First week of school in the books for us. Y'all start tomorrow.
We start tomorrow. Yeah, I'm like, we gotta wrap this up. I gotta go home.
That's right.
I gotta get my
We have
kids
to.
in bed.
That is correct. So episode 33, make sure you go back and check out episode 32 because that's where we started. And keep in mind that Adina and I are not reading the entire book on the podcast. There's a lot more. And if you go to madeformoreconsulting.com, Etiana puts the notes and she links the book, and it's so easy to purchase it there and follow us on social media.
Well, and one of the things about this book that I really, really respect this author for is that he puts he has tons of worksheets and resources
That's right.
that are all available
Mhm.
for free on his website, and I love that.
Do you know the website?
I mean, Atomic Habits /resources.
You think so?
It's something like that. He says it. I mean, I'm listening to it on Audible, but that's,
Etienne will link that in there as well.
Yeah.
So, all right, episode 33, kicking it off, section 2. He tells you that we're going to go over the ways to, create good habits, and number 1 is making it obvious. So, chapter 4 says, the man who didn't look right. To me, this chapter is just telling me that once you train your brain and your body to do a certain action, maybe you're learning the same thing over and over again, maybe you're really good at your skill, you can quickly pick up on things and see it like no one else can. Like the man that didn't look right.
Right.
The nurse, or his daughter-in-law or daughter?
yes, okay, but I feel like we should back up just a tad.
Why?
And because I feel like we should say like like he talks about in intro or like the beginning or like the 4 laws to behavior change. And so the next
I thought
4,
that's what I said.
well, kind of, you just said make it obvious.
Fine.
But I'm saying, like, if this is the first time you're listening,
Yeah.
that this is what he's doing is he's going over the 4 laws of behavior change, and it's just a simple set of rules that help you build better habits, and it's make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And tonight we're going to talk about make it obvious, and then in the future, the
We're gonna
next
do the other
3 episodes will be about that. So make it obvious.
James Clear,
Boom.
You know that he's trying to read your whole book on.
I'm not trying to
podcast.
read the whole book, I'm just saying.
So,
Okay, now,
man,
the
they did
guy.
look right.
Here we go.
So when you create a habit in your life, when you're really good at something, when you hone in on your talent, your skill, you can see something from far away, and it's obvious to you, right? So this lady sitting in the same room as someone,
I think she was a nurse, and it was her father-in-law.
she saw that he didn't look right, and
Uh-huh.
she said, "You need to go to the hospital right now." He's like, "No, I'm fine." And what happened? He went to the hospital, and he was in emergency surgery, and she saved his life
Yes.
because she knew he didn't look right. But it was all because she could tell the way someone looked, because she had been in that situation over and over and over again and trained her brain to look for certain things, right?
Right, and her brain, like, subconsciously was picking up on things that
Mhm.
she didn't even know. Like, he said, she couldn't even tell you exactly what it was about him, but she just knew it wasn't right. And what I thought about was, how many times have you seen somebody and you just thought, like, something's not right with them?
Yeah.
Like, they don't look happy, or like you can just tell something's wrong. I
Their
think
mood.
you can kind of see, especially like parents with your kids,
Yeah.
or like your siblings, like somebody that you know really well, that you can just look at them and just be like, something's not right, even though you can't like really label it. It's that your brain is so perceptive that
Yeah.
it's reading all of those cues.
Yeah. I was gonna share something, but we'll
Go,
maybe
no.
say it later. No, I was thinking about when you're off a little bit personally. So the other side of it, you're off. Maybe nothing medically is wrong, but
Yeah,
you're the one
just
off,
emotionally.
and your people come up and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, something wrong."
Hey, something's wrong.
Yeah. And so recently that happened to me, and a couple people asked, "Are you pissed? Are you upset?" I'm like, so it reminded me of the game that I was taught to play, which is normal face. Whether you're pissed, angry, happy, normal face, so that when something happens, you don't panic. You just keep normal face. And so the way they play it is they grab the roller of napkin, those like the wrapping paper roll
Mhm.
thing, and you slap somebody in the head as hard as you can. You gotta keep normal face. And so but you
Okay,
never know. So
please tell me you haven't done that like for any of like your trainings,
Yeah,
or
with
like in
kids.
business.
With your kids. So,
No.
normal face. Yeah, you just keep a normal face.
But kid, I'm gonna hit you and say, keep a normal face.
Yeah, that's what it's called. So that if you keep normal face.
Jamie, hide your children.
Anyways, so the way he says this whole thing about not looking right there is he says, with enough practice, your brain will pick up on the cues. And what I had to do for myself was, instead of the word cues, I put triggers. So your brain will pick up on the triggers that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. It's what you said. So, Adino, what are some of these that you have in your life? Something that you would see that you could pick up on a mile away?
Well, I don't really know what you're asking me with that question, but because I feel like it's one of those things that I feel like I am. Like, I can tell when people are not having a good day. you know, and I may not be able to say why, like what on your face looks different,
Yeah.
but I really try to pay attention to people when they talk and their facial, why are you laughing?
Just keep going. Just keep
And
going.
their facial expressions,
Yes.
like I really try to pay attention.
Just keep going. Just keep going.
So whenever somebody isn't having a good day or something is wrong,
Yeah.
I can tell
Yeah.
what's wrong.
Okay.
I can even tell when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know for me for sure. Yeah, you're right. And I think one of the reasons I'm laughing is just because it's interesting for those of us that work together, or even family members. So all of us in here, I think if we were at a table and somebody said something that triggered something, most of us would probably go, "Oh, that's gonna sting," or "Let's see how he responds or she responds," and the tension rises or not. But anyways, just yeah. So think about what Adina just said. I think a word that comes to mind is discernment. Some people have a really good discernment when they're interviewing people on your team. Again, if you're really good as a leader at something, remember to continue to grow that habit so that you can offer that to your team at all the time. So your brain has the capability to see something coming, for good or bad, and we can leverage that. But most of the time we don't. I think sometimes we just second guess it. We keep quiet. So yeah, so the man who didn't look right, chapter 4, we started this, and he said, I think another vital part of this chapter that I said is once our habits become automatic, we stop paying attention to what we are doing. So for better or worse, we have to be careful because these habits that are bad can become automatic. Like eating, like for me, I remember this, it was eating popcorn at night. So when I would eat popcorn at night, I'd go get a Dr. Pepper. Like automatically my brain would say, hey, you're eating Dr. Pepper, so go get you're eating popcorn, so go get a Dr. Pepper.
I forgot you used to do that.
But then the other thing that I would do is also pretzels. Like if I had pretzels, I wanted a Dr. Pepper. So my brain was telling, it's weird. It's like the clicker. It's like
Yes.
Jim and Dwight, when he hears a sound, he would give him a mint. And then all of a sudden he did the sound and didn't give him a mint. And Dwight was freaking out. But social media. So like the minute your alarm goes off, some people get on their phone and just start scrolling. You've already taught your brain it's automatic.
Okay,
right?
so also we've talked about this in another book, or maybe it's with Jocko, is that's why you don't hit snooze, because the second you hit snooze, even one time, you're building that habit.
You've engaged a new
Yes,
habit
you've
that's
been
negative.
so it is. That's why it's like you get out of bed every single time, the very first time your alarm goes
Yeah, and I
off.
think I put that later, is that put the alarm across the room so
Oh,
that
yeah,
you
I've
don't
heard
hit
that.
snooze.
Get
You
up.
have to get up.
Yes,
Don't even
get
engage that.
up.
Yeah.
Because then hitting snooze becomes a habit.
So once our habits become automatic, we stop paying attention to what we're doing. And that's for good or bad, right? So if they're good habits, like for me, I think one of the ones that I tried to do was the minute I got up in the morning or, got to the office, I would go through the list of things that I do every morning. And recently, the last 2 weeks, that's been off. I've been off of that, so that kind of messes with my brain, and I feel like I'm not getting things done, so I'm having to readjust. I know we were talking about that before the podcast. So what do we do next? He mentions awareness, like in this whole thing of becoming automatic. He mentions awareness. If you're not aware of the habits that are detrimental or helping you, then how do you know what to do or what to stop practicing?
When I was thinking about how he talks about in here about exercise and eating right, because those are really easy like habits to kind of talk about. But I think so many times when it comes to something like that, it's not that you are not motivated, or it's not that you're like, I'm just not exercising. It's because you're letting a habit interfere with that. And so whether it is the habit of taking longer to get ready in the morning, or whether it's the habit of turning the news on, when you first get out of bed, there's something that's interfering with that, and you're not able to break that habit cycle.
Yeah, and I think what people got to remember is that there is a part of life that's not going to be as easy. If you want to get up early and go walking or running or working out, you're always going to have that part of your brain that goes, hey, just stay in bed.
Well, and he talks
Get a
about,
fighting inside.
so what are you doing well? What is already a habit that you have? So maybe it's getting out of bed. He uses getting out of bed and making coffee a lot,
Yeah.
So if that's the habit that you're doing that's productive, then stop right there, make your coffee, get dressed, and go work out.
Yeah. And then try to figure out, why is it that waking up and going straight to the coffee maker works? Well, because you're not thinking, you're doing it quick.
Right.
So
Because I feel like I need my coffee first thing in the morning.
yeah, or drink coffee. So again, another part of this is, I think the best part of this chapter for me was the habit scorecard. So he's going to talk about a scorecard. Adina talked about going to the website
Yes.
and getting this because it's really good. And now this will be in our action steps. I believe that we should put this in our action steps because it's about keeping score of your habits. It goes well with awareness and the two things that we just shared. And he says this: the habit scorecard is a simple exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior. So talking about the behavior, why do I do this? Why do I do that? Why don't I do this? This scorecard is going to help you answer that so that you can build better habits and stop the ones that you don't want to have.
Well, you have to be able to acknowledge what you're doing well, what habits are serving you. He uses the term like what habits are, how does he say it? Like that you get a vote for? That
Yeah,
are
you can
voting.
vote for,
Yeah.
you can vote for the good, like you're either voting to become closer to your goal or away from
Right.
it.
So he uses that a lot, and I like that. I like the idea of that some of your habits are moving you closer to who you want to be, and some of your habits are moving you to the opposite way. And so that's where I'm like, you have to know what it is, because I think that I did not realize that so many of the things that I do every day, I would not have called that a habit. I would just say it's part of my routine. Well, that routine is either serving me to become the person that I want to be, or it's moving me the other way.
Yes, you're putting a vote in the no. Like it's not who I want to be. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Is it's a vote of who you want to become. Some of the examples I think that we can use. Do you have your book?
Yes.
Can you open it up to that chapter 4, that scorecard? And again, the habit of a scorecard is simply an exercise that you can use to become more aware of your behavior. So you're basically just going. Here's an example of the scorecard, and he writes it. He just says, write them down. Your list might start like this: you wake up, you turn off your alarm, you check your phone, you go to the bathroom, you weigh yourself, you take a shower, you brush your teeth, you floss your teeth, put on deodorant, hang up a towel, get dressed, make a cup of tea.
So that's
and so
perfect,
on.
because that's where I was like, those are things I would not have called habits, but they are. And if you can, which he talks about it, habit stacking, which I think is
We'll
in
talk
the
about
next
that in a
chapter.
second,
But you have to identify your habits. You have to identify what you're doing well and what is serving you, so you can increase that.
So when he says he wakes up, turns off his alarm, and checks his phone, I would already mark off the check your phone, because you got to wake up and turn your alarm off. That goes to voting yes.
Yes.
The vote
Check
no.
your phone. That's negative.
Yeah,
That's
and I
a
think that
negative
just
vote.
slows you down.
Yeah.
And weighing yourself, maybe weigh yourself. I don't even know why people weigh
I
themselves.
don't know. I weigh myself all the time just because I think it's interesting.
I don't know, to take measurements around
You know,
the energy.
I
body
weigh myself
trying
when
to
I get
lose
up in the
weight.
morning, then I drink my coffee, and then I go to the bathroom. I weigh myself like 3 times. Just
So anyways,
it's fun.
the scorecard, so one of the action steps is, hey, write down everything you do in the morning. And hey, don't be generous to yourself. Go, yes, I wake up, I turn my alarm off, and I go to Instagram, or I go to Facebook, or I check my email. Write all those things down, because it's becoming a habit. So then you can go, I want to put my phone away. I just want to put my phone away.
I wake up, I check my phone, I make my coffee. I get back in bed, I drink my coffee.
That's crazy.
I told you I'm going the wrong way. I'm voting no in
So
my
that's-
life, and I can't stop.
That's chapter 4. And he's talking about awareness. The things that we do, are they going to get us closer or further away? And then we go into chapter 5. He said the best way to start a new habit. This chapter has great detail, so I want you guys, again, go buy the book, Atomic Habits, James Clear. Maybe he'll listen to this podcast.
I think he should, because I mean, this is a good podcast, and it's a good book.
The last time we asked the author to hear our podcast, you blasted him, saying we could have wrote
We
this.
could have written the book.
And then he visited our freaking Instagram and podcast.
And
But
he's like, I don't know who that girl is who thinks she knows everything.
yeah, so you and I talked about this. Oh snap!
Yep, earlier this week, and we talked about how simple it is to like build a new habit.
Yeah.
So there's obvious that there is an easy way to build a new habit.
Yeah, and so he said the most 2 common cues, or so the most 2 common, what did I call that? Triggers.
Triggers.
Triggers are time and location. So if you and I are trying to build a new habit, the most common triggers are time and location. And this is what you came into the office the other day talking to me about. So time and location, meaning this is an example of what he calls a vague implementation plan. So when you're trying to start this new habit, he said this is vague. When people say, hey, when this situation arises, I will do this. So he says that is vague. Why is that vague?
Yeah, well, we also kind of talked about how when people just say, like, I want to lose weight or I want to exercise,
Yeah.
you know, and so we were kind of saying, if you're like, well, I'm gonna exercise 3 times a week.
Yeah.
That's still really vague.
And that's what he's talking about.
And
You
that-
get time
yes.
and what did I say? Time.
Yes, so
and
he
location.
wants you to say, I'm gonna exercise Monday morning, 7 a.m. after I drink my coffee.
And,
right?
Yeah, and this is where I'm going to be, and
Yeah.
it's going to be outside in my neighborhood. So he says, think detail. So again, what's the best way to start a new habit? Is think about time, think about the location, and he wants you to get into detail because it's not like here's the cool.
I know, I was like, this is it, I
This
loved
is the
this.
quote, right? He says it's not lack of motivation, it's lack of a plan. So you and I, we want to do all these things,
Mhm.
whether it's on your team, whether it's as your leader, whether it's as an individual. It's not the lack of motivation, it's the lack of a plan. And so he gives us a better formula and he says this, I will do this behavior at this time, at this place. So he says, I will study Spanish for 20 minutes at 6 p.m.
In my bedroom.
Yeah. I will exercise for 1 hour at 5 p.m. in my local gym. So he's trying he wants us to write down in detail what we're going to start.
Well, then I think once you have the plan, that specific of a plan, if you make the choice not to do that,
Mhm.
then you're just making the choice because you have set yourself up for success
Yeah.
and you're just making the choice not to do it. That has nothing to do with motivation.
No.
You're just
Yeah.
not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so then I would ask yourself, why did you really want to study Spanish in the first place? You know, kind of that, how does that bring you to be the person that you want
Yeah,
to
because
be?
maybe
who
it
you
wasn't
want to be?
Spanish, maybe it was
Right.
something else.
That's what I mean,
You
like,
want to become a learner.
so I
not-
think that, right, and that's where I think that sometimes people say things like that, like, oh, I just want to learn Spanish. Well, like, let's break that down. If you're not following your plan, let's go back to why and who you want to be.
Yeah, maybe they just want to learn a new language, and maybe it's not Spanish, or maybe they just want to learn something. So for me, I know I wrote this down in our notes, is our dreams need to live in a real world, not a vague world. And for
I like
me,
that.
again, the whole vague world was like, again, I have these dreams of Made for More, and I put Made for More gives back. Like this whole part of our organization that gives back to the community, but gives back to people in need during the major holidays, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, back to school.
What we
But
talked a lot
nothing
about
takes place
Made
because-
for More for students doing
Exactly.
because that was a big thing, a big
Yeah.
passion of yours.
Yeah, and
was
then
doing something.
and online training, and for students to go, hey, how do I go out and get a job? We have all these ideas, but I don't start them because I don't put a time, I don't put a place, and I don't put a location.
Because your dreams are vague.
That's what
In
it
a
is.
vague,
In
well,
vague
yeah,
world.
in a vague world.
It's all in my head, and those are
Yes.
cool things. But if
Let's
I
make a
don't,
plan.
if I don't do them, someone else is. So, I think the next thing this chapter he talks about is the benefit for people of habit stacking. And I know you talked about this earlier. So what's habit stacking? It's that stacking one habit on top of the other, and seeing that snowball effect.
Yeah, it says habit stacking is a strategy you can use to pair a new habit with a current habit. The habit stacking formula is after current habit, I will, new habit. And then he gives some examples like after I pour my cup of coffee in the morning, I will meditate for 1 minute. I thought that was a good one. After I take off my shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I feel like that it just seems so basic when you're reading it, but I really thought about that. I was
Yeah.
like, and also you're interrupting your patterns in your mind.
Yeah.
And so instead of doing what you've always done next, you're gonna stop and you're gonna do something different immediately after you have been successful, which led me to all of that brain, which he talks about in a later chapter, like the dopamine in your brain
Yeah.
and being successful and
Yeah.
so
and-
yes.
But also, I think going into that what's his name, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, he used to be on CNN,
Oh yeah.
but he did study the brain and Alzheimer's and dementia, and he started saying, do things out of the ordinary to help your brain grow, which is brush your teeth with your left hand rather than your right hand if you're right-handed. So, but here's what he's saying, is teach your brain new things. If you always drive with your right hand on the steering wheel, drive with the left. Put both hands on it. Teach your brain to start doing new things because you get so relaxed. And he said what they're seeing in most people nowadays in dementia is they're relaxing their brain and they're just sitting in front of the TV and all they're doing is just watching TV And mostly older people, I know my dad had mentioned this about my grandma, his mom, was that's what she did for the last year after she fell. That's what she did, and you can reignite those things in your brain if you're trying to grow. But once a disease takes it over, I think it forms to it starts to go towards the disease rather than, hey, I've triggered my mind to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So little things that you can do.
That's a good. I like that.
Anyways.
So with habit stacking, the key is to tie the desired behavior to something that you're already doing each day.
Yeah. So like, if I work out in the morning and I don't eat well, hey, I'm gonna work out at 6 a.m. and once I finish, I'm gonna take a protein drink. Meaning you're gonna get the health and the fitness really quick. Start habit stacking like that. I don't know. I'm not very good at the workout thing because to me, I'm just going to get up and go. Like,
Right.
Because I've already built that habit.
But like for somebody who doesn't work out first thing in the morning, I could see how that is beneficial to tie it immediately to something that I'm already successful at.
You're right.
Instead of doing something that's a no vote.
Mhm.
If you do a yes vote, yes vote, yes vote instead of a yes and then a no, it's harder to bring yourself back around into another yes vote. Does that make sense?
No, it makes total
So
sense.
I mean, I was like, I got this. Like, yeah,
And the
geez, way to
key is,
go.
yeah, the key is practicing the stuff. So
Over and over and over again.
yeah, he goes on to tell us that you can stack habit on top of habit after habit, and then stack things up. Your brain works in momentum that you've set up, and it starts to perform in that whole level of like a snowball effect. He talks about creating 2 columns of habits, and I don't know why I just stopped right there.
Yeah, well,
2 columns of habits.
yeah.
The good
I
ones
would,
and the
yes,
bad.
yes,
The yes and
yes,
the
the
no's.
yes and the no's.
Because if I have the habit of hitting snooze, then I'm gonna stay in bed,
Mhm.
and then after I stay in bed, I'm gonna feel like a bum all day, and then I'm gonna be late to work. I'm gonna be in a bad mood,
Right.
Because
Well, he also talks about that there are neutral habits.
Yeah.
You know, that like some of the things that you do are just neutral. Like brushing your teeth. That's a good habit, but it's just new. It's part of your routine. That was one of the ones he's like, it's just neutral. So he also talked about some of those that they're just neutral.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that.
So chapter 4, that tonight the first one was the man who didn't look right. Again, making sure that you are paying attention to what your brain's trying to show you and building those habits that just come naturally to you. And then the second chapter 5, the best way to start a new habit is, and again, be detailed is what he's saying. It's not lack of motivation, it's lack of a plan. So be detailed in your plan to start a new habit. And then this next chapter 6, says motivation is overrated, environment
Often.
matters more.
Yes.
So I thought when I first read the part of this chapter, when I first read the title of this chapter, I was gonna go. I just said this is a bunch of crap.
Well, and you know, when I read the chapter, that title, I was like, oh, I wonder what Mario's gonna say about
So,
this.
yes.
And I almost texted you, but I was like, no, I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait till it's a more like authentic conversation
Yeah.
about this chapter.
So in normal face, you just detach. You go, I'm just gonna read the chapter because this guy may know more than me. So when it turns out he is, I mean, he does. It's an eye-opening chapter if you think of, and it makes you think a lot about the environment you're in. So to put simply, I said we can use our environment to set up positive habits. Also, from a leader's perspective or a parent's perspective, we can use our environment to drive our teams to build positive habits by just utilizing the environment, and you don't even have to say a word. And so, I mean, he talked about the donuts in the break room. If I want my daughters to grow up healthier, then I need to probably put fruit instead of donuts out, right?
Yes.
The environment, it says a lot. He says small changes in context can lead to large changes in behavior over time.
And this was the one where he
That's
talked about the in the hospital
The water.
cafeteria,
Yep.
they put water. They strategically put water in all these different places, and they didn't tell anybody why they were doing it. They just did it to see if it made a difference.
And they left the sodas where they were, right?
Yes, and they just placed water in like different areas, high traffic areas. And so like I think one of the things they talked about was they moved water to right by the checkout.
Yep.
And so yes, and then how the water sales went up, you know, so many percentage because that's what it was. It was just changing the environment led to changing your behavior.
Yeah.
And I think it's also it's kind of one of those things with like the people that you're around, you know.
Your friends, yeah.
Yeah, the people that
That's
you're around. Yeah, it's just, and as a parent, yes, I think that's a great one. You know, if you don't want your kids to play video games all the time. Well, then maybe don't have 14 video games systems, one in every room. Same thing with like TV.
Unless they're gonna be a gamer.
Well, and I'm just
They
whatever it
make
is
money.
as a parent. If you wanted to play games, great. But that it's hard to tell your kids not to watch TV when we have 10 TVs in our house.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that I'm not setting them up to not watch TV.
Go
so
buy a 20-inch TV.
you know what?
Black and white.
That's what I'm
Put
like.
it
Our
in one.
environment says we're gonna watch TV.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. You just made me think of if we came and stayed with whoever is listening to this for one day, what would your environment tell us about you? You know what I'm saying?
My environment would say she's crazy. There's a lot going on. It's always
Mine would
always
say
a lot going
he
on in
eats
our
way
house.
too much. I think, like, really, this made me think of going, hey, what can I put in my bag that's going to help me in my environment? Like, whether it's,
Yes.
fruit, vegetables,
Almonds. I always carry almonds.
I guess. But what I'm saying is,
Instead
I'd
of
rather.
Snickers.
I was about to say, I'd rather have a Snickers. I'd rather go get the Lifesaver gummies and the Nerd. What is it?
Oh yeah,
The
the
Nerd
gummy
clusters.
nerds.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I ate a whole bag one time, and I was like knocked out on the sofa because I thought I was gonna throw up. Jamie and Tyler were there, and I was like, guys, I ate the whole bag in one setting. So, man, I could so put somebody on blast about a Sonic. Is that a Route 44? No.
This is a 36 ounce unsweet Sonic tea.
Okay, well, I had a friend that had a habit of going to Sonic
Oh,
and getting Route
yes.
44 Master Blaster, which is ice cream.
Uh-huh.
Route 44
Uh-huh.
with 1 spoon, extra candy, and they would kill it.
Sounds so good. McKenna, let's stop on the way home.
But he would do that when he was stressed, and I hope he listens to this. But anyways,
he'll know who
yeah.
you're talking
Yeah.
about.
so snowball effect, this whole thing of small changes in your context can have this compound interest, and it just continues to grow. It's like putting something in your savings account. It just continues to grow.
Mhm.
Over time, it'll add up. So if I just always put fruit out, then I'm gonna be used to eating fruit
Yes.
and vegetables.
Yes, and he talked about like if you work from home, don't work like in your living room, work in a separate part of your house. That way you'll associate work with a different part of your room. Yeah, same thing.
Does
Put
that
water.
happen to you though?
No, not really. But I don't work at home a whole lot. But so I can totally work on my bed, on my couch. It doesn't bother me. But I also don't work at home a whole lot. So
I think I wait for my wife and my kids and everybody to go to bed, and I can work. Like last night, I was writing stuff for Made for More, and then like today, I got home early, so I started working on some more stuff for one of our clients. But I can get lost in that if I'm not careful, and that can turn into a bad habit too, where you're ignoring your family. Man, I've heard. This week we had a couple interviews with some guys for one of our clients, and man, he was talking about working 86 to 90 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife broke, and he broke, and he was like,
Can't do it anymore.
I can't do this. And so that habit can be horrible. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, context.
Yeah. So also, I think this chapter is huge because instead of like small reminders of a good habit, it's your entire environment that can remind you to like start and have good habits.
And I think as a boss though, or as a leader, you need, and I think this is like a kick in the face to me, in the gut, whatever, is to go, whenever we're working together, what is our environment? Like, how am I setting up our environment? Is it negative? Is it dark? Is it, or is it fun? For me, it's food.
Tense,
So.
yes. So he says gradually your habits become associated not with a single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding your behavior. The context becomes the cue.
Yeah, so the context becomes the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So if you set your home up to be somewhere where it's going to be whatever you call healthy, then when you come into your house, that context is showing health.
Yeah.
Right?
In this chapter, this is where he talked about like an addict, how if they stay in the same environment, it's
That's a really good.
yes,
point.
I don't want to say it's impossible, but he said it's very, very, very difficult to create new habits and change that because everything around them is triggering them to go back to their addiction.
Yeah, so if you were in rehab and come out and you go back to your friends, like you said,
Yes, and that's what he
those
talks
feelings
about.
come back, right? So I know we've talked about this before, maybe not on the podcast, but personally, like whenever a certain song comes on and things go back to the past, or when you smell something and you're going, this
absolutely.
brings me back to being a kid. That's your brain is going, remember when.
Yes.
And if you're an addict, yeah, that goes. And I think as a leader and as a boss, know your employees well enough to like get to know them. And if they say something like that, go, cool. What does that trigger? Again, what is the cue? What does that trigger?
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, mine is Dr. Pepper, popcorn, candy, sweets every time. Like seriously, on a road trip,
That's
you
it.
can ask my wife. It's beef jerky, Dr. Pepper, fried burritos, gummies. Seriously, if you've never had a fried burrito from West Texas, you're missing out.
You know, yeah, I don't know how long it's been since I've eaten meat, but I might eat meat
Yeah,
to eat a fried burrito because I think those things are delicious.
Yeah, I took John Bang Bang Evans to West Texas, and he bought 2 for dinner, and then he woke up early and said,
So
"We're
good."
gonna go to breakfast at this small little convenience store," and it was a fried burrito.
Delicious.
So in the end, ask yourself: is my environment helping or hurting who I want to become? And again, it's putting that vote of: is my environment saying, "Hey, here's a vote for who you want to be. Here's a vote for who I don't want to be."
Yes, is it helping me become the person I'm meant to be? For sure.
Definitely. Last chapter.
Secret to self-control.
Yeah.
This was a super short chapter, but made a lot of like really big statements in talking about self-control. And some of them, like you had said, you know, you had never heard of these, and I really do. It really did challenge kind of the way that you think. So what do you think?
I think that again, I'm trying to figure out where I'm at. Like.
So the first law is make it obvious.
Yes. Yeah, make it obvious. The first law is make it obvious. But so if but you invert the.
Yes.
It's an inversion of the first law. So to make it obvious, he said, this means I'm lost.
Yeah. So like basically what he was saying is, so like instead of it being like an obvious thing, like we're gonna put our workout clothes. If you don't want to play the PS5, then take it out of your living room.
Oh yeah.
Like in the book, he talks about like put the controller away.
Yeah.
You know.
You're right.
If you're trying to stop smoking, then stop stopping at the same convenience store every single time that you've always bought cigarettes. Change
the route
that you take home.
Yeah.
You know, it may take you longer, but it's that whole trigger thing. So avoid that path that was leading you to that same pattern.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, now I'm picking up on it. Yeah, because again, road trips for me, whenever we're going to West Texas. Okay, why don't you go get candy, all that stuff. Maybe change that and say, hey, let's get some fruit.
Yeah.
Some water. Sounds boring.
Well, maybe you would I'm gonna pack some stuff on the way instead of stopping at the convenience store where I'm tempted to buy beef jerky and fruit and
I would think that maybe you
Pepper.
could save money that way too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But if this would be the case that you're trying to break that pattern, you know.
Yeah, I just think again this whole
listen,
this is self-control.
Well, it is, and I think it sounds, but I've had to take certain apps off my phone because it's easy for me to click on there and buy something or stop and get a coffee, you know. But if I make it a little bit harder where I have to actually log in, it's not as easy, it's out of my routine, then it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing that you said earlier. So once a habit is formed, he says it's unlikely to be forgotten. Going back to that whole relapse.
Yes.
Again, this is an area where relapse happens and people start smoking again after years. They get back to a certain environment and those memories are triggered and they go, hey, let me smoke again. So remember that, I guess, a part of your brain always stores those things in there, just like our memories as a kid. And you have to, don't steer in the direction that's going to bring those things back up, like you're saying, okay?
Yeah.
So I also combined 2 of the thoughts here that he talked about, and then he says self-control is a short-term strategy. So again, remember that, short-term strategy. Self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. People with high self-control tend to spend less time in tempting situations. It's easier to avoid temptation than it is to resist it.
I thought that was really good, and because we always talk to people, it's like, oh, I don't have self-control. I don't have self-control. Well, people with high self-control, they don't put themselves in those situations. That is what they're doing. They're not putting themselves in those situations over and over and over. It's almost like they know better.
Yeah.
And so
it's the whole smarter, not harder. Just outthink your temptation if you can.
Yes.
I know temptation is going to be there, but outthink it. So I'm trying to stop drinking. Well, don't go to the freaking bar.
Don't go to the bar.
Why would you go to the bar?
Absolutely.
I'm trying to stop eating sweets, then why did you get cake?
Yes. Don't walk down that aisle at the grocery store.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where I said put the alarm across the room, because self-control is going. Non-self-control would be like, man, I'm just gonna hit snooze and go back to sleep. No, self-control and starting a new habit is going, I'm gonna put the alarm over there, wake up and go turn it off and get ready to go.
So one of the things I thought about with this was how he makes it very like black and white. And I thought about in a relationship that sometimes your self-control is not saying something that you really want to say, like, you know, like not damaging that relationship. And so in that, even people that have high self-control, what they're doing in those situations is they're changing the pattern, and they're gonna have to say like, you know, even if it's in their mind, normally I would go down this way, I'm gonna stop this and I'm going to leave the room, or I'm gonna say something different than I would normally say. But I think it also works with relationships, and that was something he didn't put a lot of focus on.
Yeah.
But I think the habits are the same thing. If you want to habit stack and build stronger relationships, you can do that. Whether that is, I'm gonna text my wife every day at this time, or I'm gonna text my friend, or I'm gonna, whatever it is, you know, you can build a habit that can build your relationships. And the same thing with leadership.
Yeah, meetings, like weekly meetings. I mean,
Yes.
most people don't have them. You need to start those, become a habit.
Yes.
I think it's seeing things from a high ground to go, hey, I'm gonna zoom out so that I can look at this from a higher perspective, detach and go, if I say what I say right now, it's gonna hurt the relationship. I gotta look at it from a different perspective and just go, hey, I'm gonna hold my tongue.
I'm not gonna go down the path that we always
I'm not
go
gonna
down.
vote
Not
on
gonna
the
vote no.
negative. I'm gonna vote on the positive.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So, he's just saying, just be smart about where you put yourself. I think one of the things and it's funny when I hear Jago talk about this self-control, and they say, what advice do you have? We were here, when he was here live in Austin, some people were asking questions. So, hey Jago, what do you think about, how do I quit smoking? He'd say, just
quit.
Hey, how do I get in shape?
Just do
start
it.
working out.
Yeah.
How do I wake up early? Just wake up
Just
early.
get out of bed.
Yeah.
I know.
'Cause
That
he's
is one
trying
thing
to-
I
but he's trying to
appreciate.
strip
Yeah.
apart the complications that you put. We make it more complicated.
Yes.
Keep it simple, meaning it is what it is. Don't give the temptation more than it should, or the enemy more than they should. When
Yes.
you have the control and the power over it,
Get
you're
up.
just not doing it.
Don't hit snooze.
It's not like
Done.
motivation. It's the plan, right?
Yes, I like that.
So we'll put that quote out. Not lack of motivation, it's a plan.
Yes, that's a good quote.
So I think this book, again, for me, is really eye-opening for, again, on the personal development side as leaders and of teams as well. I would ask ourselves, does your environment lead to distractions or productivity? As a leader, as a parent, so where I'm setting my team up, where I'm setting my kids up, where I'm setting myself up, is my environment setting me up for distractions or to be productive?
Well, and I was also thinking about it as a leader, you can habit stack for your team.
Yeah.
You know, because if your team all has a habit of, you know, maybe in a meeting you get together and you do something really well, and then everything falls apart. Okay, well let's stack it as a team. Okay, what do we need to add to that to make it, to continue the momentum?
Yeah.
And do it over and over and over again.
Yeah, and if it's not working, don't get discouraged. Maybe it just needs to be at a different time or different day or different setting.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
The other question I wrote down is, does your environment breed teamwork or individualism? Meaning, so if you're a leader, are you allowing your team to go, hey, we're teamwork, or hey, it's all about you, or it's all about me? Yeah, that's that whole manipulation or influence. What is your environment saying to your team? It's all about me, or it's all about us? And then the last one I put, I think you said this, do your meetings happen the same way all the time, or are they different? Are they tired? Are they tiring, boring, energy driven? Think through those things so that you can get the most out of them and build new habits.
Well, and he talks about at the beginning that habit tracker form. I think if you're a leader of a team, do this habit tracker form instead of, I wake up every morning, I do this, I do this. Do it for what you do for your team, what you go with your team, and figure out what are you voting no for, and what are you voting yes for to build the team that you want.
Yeah, and it starts with you in the mirror, seriously.
Absolutely.
If you lead a team, don't go and say, hey, my team does this wrong, no. Because you're the one that's driving,
Yes.
you're the leader. So it's gonna come back to you, and this is why I wrote this next statement was, I heard this week, and it says, when you leave your team to work and you're out of the store, out of office, when you lead your team to work, what they do correct or right is on them. It's a product of who they are. So what they do wrong is a product of the way you've trained them. So
Yes.
the wrong is a product of you, not of them. It's because you probably have not trained them, or you just have not given them the expectation. So what training systems, what systems do you have that are building good habits and great habits, rather than, hey, there's a gap here that they can start a bad habit. So anyways, I think building teams to understand that you can build good habit stack, like Adina said, and just grow as a team. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So that's section 2.
Yes. So, and the next episode is make it attractive.
So this was make it obvious.
Yep. And the next is make it attractive.
Yeah. So what do we got as far as action steps?
I feel like we gave several of them throughout. You know, I think use the habit tracker.
For sure, go to his website, download and use James Clear Habit Tracker.
For sure.
And then another action step is ask yourself, is my environment helping or hurting who I want to become? That
For
who,
sure.
right? And
Yep.
write those things down. Who do I want to become? And again, if I wake up late, is that a vote for yes or no? The way I talk to people, the way I respond, is it a vote for who, yes or no? So I think those are good.
Those are good.
Before we close, we have merch.
Yes, we
There's
do.
a hat on our table if you're on YouTube. We still have these hats. I don't remember how much they are. But
25, as Tiana says.
$25 to rep the Made for More hat. We were somewhere and somebody was wearing that. It was pretty cool. I think it might have been at the memorial.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody was wearing that hat. Thought it was pretty cool. And then Raph from Slab was repping that.
That's nice.
And then I'm going to see what is in the making for Slab and Made for More on our side. I know what they get from us, but I'm going to see what we can get. Today I was told that I may have some, I may have the privilege of giving some things away from Slab.
Nice.
So
That'll be
we'll
fun.
see.
Our people will love that.
Yeah, so merch, we got shirts, hats. Go to the website, madeformoreconsulting.com. You can purchase something there so that you can rep from wherever you're at.
Yes.
Motivate, inspire, encourage.
Follow us on all social media channels.
YouTube.
Made for More Consulting.
Yes. Also, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Our downloads just keep going up. I don't want to share where we're at just because we're getting there. We're making an impact. But
And that's what's important.
yeah, it's life change, making an impact.
Yes.
Just again, alone this week, we had at least 2 or 3 people that just started listening to our podcast.
Yes. And I love that they didn't just listen to one episode.
Yeah.
They kept listening.
Yeah, I was. That was cool. It was really cool, and I think that's about it.
I think that's it.
Anything?
No.
Nothing you want to share with the world? Anybody?
No. Do you have something that you think I should share with the world? I mean, I don't mind sharing. I just, you know, what should I share?
How's your house going?
It's coming along really good. It is. I was just telling somebody this morning that it doesn't quite feel like home yet, but we're working on it. It still kind of feels like somebody else's house that we're living in. But and I haven't really like got in the pool yet, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to Friday when my children are all at school, and I'm gonna go lay on in the float in the pool by myself.
That's cool. Yeah, excellent. Hopefully school's still in session Friday.
It will
so.
be. It will be. Don't do that to me.
Don't
Don't speak those words over me.
Everybody's going back to school. Make sure you guys are helping your students and your kids build good habits. Yeah, I think that we would love for you just to pass this podcast along. Let us know
Yes.
if someone that you recommend is beginning to listen to this. And
Yeah,
if
I
you're
love
someone
that.
listening and someone recommended, let us know, and we'll see what we can give you. So remember, you exist for more. You're here to offer more. Don't ever give up. Every single one of us is made for more. Later. 45:53.
Good.
Oh,
Bye, YouTube.
my bad. I always forget. I'm gonna set something else again. See you
Every
guys
week.
later.
Every
Take care.
week.